seconds. Moving on. All right, this is Dr. Crystal Porter, and we are on How the Hair Are You? Thank you for tuning in, and for those of you on Periscope, hello, thanks for joining. And we are on How the Hair Are You, which is a show that's all about hair. I am Dr. Crystal Porter. I am a hair scientist, and I give the scientific perspective, but I always have in-studio guests, and I am so pleased to welcome Miss Maryam Mohammad. And then can you introduce your guest?
I am bringing my good friend Keisha.
Hello,
She's
everyone.
a fellow hairstylist, colorist, everything beauty industry we are. So thank you for having me.
All right, and as always, nothing is off limits. So if there's anything that you guys have heard in the world of hair, we are open to talk about it. Any perspective that you give is valid and important, because if you want to speak on it, it's important to our listeners as well. And for those of you on Periscope, if you want to share that we're on the air, and send those hearts, thank you, really appreciate that. And so I want to get right into some of the topics that we have been discussing, because when I posted that we were going to be on the air at 10 o'clock, we had a couple of people make some comments.
Absolutely. There is a rise in bad practices in our industry, unfortunately, and one being the hair loss epidemic, specifically around the hairline. We are experiencing, like most of my newer clients have, hair loss and thinning edges, and we want to know why and get to the bottom of how we can better improve our outcome when it comes to educating our clients on how to avoid this problem. One lady, Shirley,
Miss Shirley Martin, thank you for commenting. We got to get you in here in the studio.
Yes, Shirley, thank you for commenting. She's pointed out a few points about what clients are doing and hairstylists are doing to I guess, ignite this problem. One being over gelling your edges to slick them down and then trying to recomb them after the gel is dry. I mean, back in the day, we used to use this thing called brown gel. It was a powerful tool, and I won't say a brand, but I did some research on that gel specifically years ago and found that it had sodium hydroxide in it as one of the ingredients. And so it was so common for the young girls to have, you know, the swoop is what we used to call it. The swoop just laid so perfectly, but then the next day, if it was a little fuzzy, what would they do? They would re-swoop it, re-brush it over and over again, to the point where the next time they would comb their ponytail out, it would be less and less hair. And so when a young lady becomes an adult, and you know, she's ruined that hair follicle on those edges, now it's kind of hard to reverse. But she's a woman, not even wearing her hair that same way, and so she's lacking the edges. Another point that Crystal made was,
well, you mean Shirley.
Shirley made was over chemical use, like over processing. She said that let me make a point too. The edges being the most sensitive part of the hair, specifically itself, that's the reason why you're supposed to put the chemical on the edge last. Now, that area of the head is the first part that you see when you look in the mirror, true enough, but that does not mean that should be the slickest part of the hair, right? And so she said that you would put the chemical on and leave it on too long, was her specific point she made. And that is absolutely true. Most people will go to that part first. They see the, what we call knots or B2Bs or whatever you want to call it. You see that, and then you immediately apply it to the hairline first. Well, I'm gonna just educate y'all a little bit. Now, when you put the product or the relaxer on whatever part you put it on first, it's gonna process the longest on that particular part. We agree?
Yes.
And so if you start off there and you missed all the other hair, and then now you got to go in between your scalp. You always using my hands, but you go in between the scalp and apply it. You're taking your time, but meanwhile the edges
in between the parts.
In between the part, you've applied it to the perimeter of the head first. Now you're going in between the hair. Now, if you have longer hair, it's taking a longer time to get there. Meanwhile, the edges are processing. They're getting straighter and straighter. So you're killing the bonds in the hair. There's not going to be any vitality or elasticity. You're missing all of that. And you don't realize that all you care about is it being slick and smooth, right? So now it's starting to burn. So not only have you overprocessed it, you've opened some skin. So you got a hair loss issue that could be more amplified than it would have been had you applied it to that area first, right? So my point of saying that is a practitioner is more responsible than that client. The client sometimes comes in and says that, you know, I want it slick, I want it bone straight, but we have studied this thing, so it's our job to educate them on why they should not apply it to their edges first. By it being more kinky looking, it still is going to process much faster than the rest of the hair. So that's my take on it. More education to the client. They would understand why they shouldn't do certain things. Not that they shouldn't just do it, but why they shouldn't do it, and perhaps we can kind of eliminate this problem.
Okay, so you actually said a lot.
I did. I did.
No,
I'm
it's
passionate,
fine.
so y'all, hair care is my main thing.
Okay, so you talked about the brown gel that
yes.
we use. So I'm going to order in which you talked about things. You said we're not going to name brands. Well, you're not going to name it because the most popular one was Ampro. I'm going to say
yeah. Okay.
And you were talking about the ingredient of sodium hydroxide.
Yes.
So I don't know. I need my girl on here, Angela Ellington. She is an excellent formulator. And she worked in the industry for like almost 30 years now, so for a very long time. And I don't remember the old formulation in terms of what was in there and what concentrations the ingredients were in there, because sometimes ingredients are in there to stabilize and not necessarily be reactive.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if sodium hydroxide was in there at a concentration where it would help to straighten out the hair.
Okay.
So I would need to research that a little bit. So I'm going to find out about that. But then you also talked about what we call edges. Some people like to say hairline or perimeter. So all of those are being used interchangeably. So those of you who are sensitive about that, know that we're using it interchangeably. Be flexible with us. But you said that they're most sensitive. And what you mean by that is probably, and correct me when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, but it is the part of the hair that is exposed the most.
Yes.
And probably manipulated the most.
Absolutely.
Because we want to make sure that that part of our hair looks good.
Exactly.
Because we're presenting it. So sensitive, you know, could mean different things to different people. So I want to make sure that everyone is understanding exactly what you meant when you said it's most sensitive.
It's usually the finest area on our head. So
you mean finest in terms of the diameter?
Texture.
Diameter. And so for those of you who don't know, texture in the world of cosmetology is analogous, or it's the same as saying hair thickness.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure, because a lot of people don't know that. What most people believe when you say hair texture, they believe we're talking about curl pattern.
Yes.
Which makes sense. It really does make sense. But in this instance, you're talking about it can be the fine.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And also, I want to add as well, far as not just the brown gel. Now, there's a new epidemic with this edge control.
Yes, indeed.
And that we need to educate our clients about as well, because I'm noticing the overuse of that can also contribute to thinning of the perimeter of the hairline. And you know, a lot of it's a new epidemic that people have been using now just to replace the gel, thinking it's less harmful to the hair, which I'm finding it can cause actually the same, you know, it can contribute just as much damage as the brown gel as well for over usage. Because I know a lot of people every day, like you said, they repeatedly apply that, you know, the edge tamer, and like I said, I won't say names.
Right.
But
There's many brands out there now, though. Once a bandwagon has started, the companies just seem to mass produce it. Like Shirley was saying, the reason why the hair is probably more at risk is because they recomb the same product over and over again. So if you smooth it down and it's dry, and particularly the edge control is greasy also. So it's pore clogging as well. So you got a couple of different things working against your hairline, all to make your hair look groomably well. Now, it's not that all these products are bad, you know, but overuse of them and using too much too soon is probably mainly what it is. It's like you piling it on, and to me, if it's not working when you use a little bit, it might not be the product for you in some cases.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, using products that are good for you. That's a whole nother topic. But I did want to talk about something else that you mentioned. You talked about follicles. You talked about the hair follicle. And one thing that I have to be mindful of, and I do this all the time, I switch up my words when I mean to say something and I say something else instead.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use hair fiber and hair follicle interchangeably.
Yeah.
They'll be talking about the hair fiber or the strands, and they'll say, oh yeah, the hair follicle, this, that, and, you know, they'll be just talking about characteristics of the fiber.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that when listeners or viewers are hearing us, that they know that we are talking about the follicle, which is in the scalp, and it is the area in which the hair grows from. So
Yes.
I just want people to know what the difference is between those, because a lot of people mix those up.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you said that. So knowing that the follicle is where the hair actually grows out of, when I say clog it up, think about your drain. If you are constantly putting like oil and food in there, and you're not using your garbage disposal correctly, you're not cleansing that follicle out, and you keep stuffing things in, it's going to prevent your drain from actually working, right? So in reference to hair, if you constantly put a product on, greasy products, and like the edge control, which has like waxes and stuff in it, it can clog your follicle, which is where the hair actually grows out, and then it can retard the hair growth. From my experience, we talked about grease use the last time I was here.
That means oiling of the scalp.
Oiling of the, greasing the scalp, and you know, our community, that's what people know it to be. It's like the more you suffocate that follicle, it's not allowed, I mean, the hair may or may not still grow, but it's not allowing the hair to freely grow through like it's designed to do, because our sebum, we produce it on our own. So what we think is going to actually benefit us can sometimes hinder our hair reaching its fullest potential. So that's what I mean by clogging the follicle with the edge tamers and all these things that we overdo it with. It's like putting those things on I'm not saying that they're always bad, but overdoing it without cleansing it properly is the part that we're making the mistake at in our industry.
So it's interesting that you say that, and I hear that a lot, and I am still wanting to see data to show that. But let me also say that there are a lot of things that we kind of know just from practice that have not been shown in the books or scientifically. So I do want to say that, but I am still looking for that data. I have not found that oiling the scalp or having a buildup of products on the scalp really hinders the growth of hair.
Well, it may or may not be data on it, because I didn't discover that by looking it up, but finding that the client's hair flourished more when they eliminated these products and overusing the grease is what I discovered, like with my own eyes. You know, it's like a lot of times, even products, they state these statements like, this is what's going to work, this is what's going to help your hair flourish, strengthen, do
The claims.
The claims,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
But the proof is in the pudding. I'm a hairstylist practicing, and I see certain things, and it's a lot of things that I've read that I don't believe that is false because of my own experience with clients. So it's kind of like trial and error, which is why I want to tell our stylists that's listening is we have to take our own, take the initiative to do our own research, pay attention, take the time that it actually takes to educate ourselves in order to make good decisions for our clients, because they're trusting us. They don't know, all they know is what they've been practicing over the years, kind of like habits. And it's our job to influence them in the correct way. And if we're not paying attention and we're trying to, you know, just get them in and out and do what's easy for us, sometimes it can do more harm than good. Each client is unique, and we need to take the time to give them that attention that their hair needs. So,
You want to add to that?
Well, you know what, I tell each and every one of my clients, as far as everything starts as a shampoo bowl, as far as conditioning your hair properly and making sure it has the right moisture and what, you know, ingredients that is needed for it to flourish. So I think what a lot of people misses when they oversaturate the hair, it actually may be a great product, but if there's a buildup on their hair strand and it won't allow the product to do what it's needed to actually perform the way it should. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times that's what people actually don't mentally think about. Yeah. You need a clear slate in order for the hair to get down into the hair cuticle to do what it actually needs to do.
That's true.
Okay, we have a little bit more time in this segment, but I do want to talk about what you just said about research, because you know I'm passionate about research.
Yes, indeed.
There are all types of research. The type that I'm mostly involved in is laboratory research, and that is, you can only do so much with that because we need to go out into the real world, which is where I'm going right now. So when you say that stylists need to do more research, what do you mean when you say research? Because I know what I know with research.
So what I say when I mean research is to not, and I'm using a metaphor, to not jump out the window and just listen to what product distributors are telling you about the product.
Okay.
You have to try them, not necessarily on a client that's paying you, but perhaps yourself. Look at the ingredients, know your client. Like, for example, a great example, some clients have scalp issues, right? I think that the client, the stylist should ask more questions about, like, are you allergic to anything? What has worked on their hair before is the same ingredients in the new product that you're trying. So getting, I guess, data from the clients will help you more understand what you should try on your hair, on their hair, as opposed to listening, going to the hair shows, the beauty show. There's one coming up in particular. They're trying to sell us something. And I am an advocate of everything that works for one client may not work for another client. So actually knowing your clientele and what's great for their hair will help you better decide what you should invest in as far as like hair products go. So in my terms, I'm meaning knowing your client, what's in the product, and what can attribute to better results. Mm-hmm. So.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And furthermore, connecting with a scientist, someone who can kind of better help you understand. You know, I know our industry seems like to most consumers that it's just stylists. We just do hair, you know, quote unquote. But it's a whole world of this industry that a lot of stylists don't even embark on, like the dermatologists. You know, perhaps they know some products or key ingredients that can actually help a client's situation. Everything that's a flake is not dandruff. You know, everything that kind of appears to the client as being just dry scalp can actually be a condition. So when we're thinking about products, one can be inflaming a scalp condition. So it's a lot that goes into the back end of deciding what products to use and collaborating with someone who can better help you understand what you should be using on your client's hair. So.
And that goes back to consultation.
Yes.
Which a lot of hairstylists is lacking. Thoroughly examining the scalp. Like you said, finding out the history, you know, what are they actually using at home and vice versa, and to, you know, and sending them home with some home care as well. A lot of times, I know a lot of stylists, they perform a service and, you know, and don't educate the client how to care for that actual hair once they actually leave the salon.
Well, so we're going to end after I make this comment, but we can revisit this in the other segment. But I've heard people say that some stylists feel that that's a way to get their client back in their chair and to pay them more money if they keep them coming back. So you don't tell them the secrets on how to care for their hair.
We could talk about that.
But we're going to talk about that on the other side. So. All right, so we will be back in about 10 minutes, but just to let you know, you can ask questions on @MainInsights, either tweet or you can go on my Facebook page. But also, if you want to call in, I need to write this number down so I don't have to keep looking back. But the number here is 773-821-4960. Once again, the number here is 773-821-4960. So give us a call if you have any questions, and we will be back in 10 minutes. We'll be back in 10 minutes.